Please welcome back to the stage, Jamie Bruesehoff.
So I asked my online tribe of some 7,000 parents of transgender kids of all ages, from young to grown, what they would like you to know. And they said the same things over and over again. They said, our kids are not mistakes. They deserve love unconditionally, use their names and their pronouns, and they're kids just like any other kid. As a community of parents, we've seen it all. We've faced rejection over and over. We've lost family, friends, community, and faith because of our child's gender identity. But we've also gained so much. New community, chosen family, hope in the face of adversity, and for many, a renewed faith in God, if not their church. Our children have taught us what it means to love the child we have and not the child we thought we had or wished we had. They've taught us to let go of expectations and see and love the person in front of us as they are, whoever they are. They've made us better parents and better people. On Saturday, I talked about grief. So much of my grief and the grief of other parents isn't actually about our kids. It's a joy and a privilege to watch our children step into their truest selves. Our grief is about the world they're living in. Our grief is about the people that don't understand. It's our fear for the future. It's why these parents so desperately want you to know our kids are okay. They're just fine. It's everybody else we're worried about. There are some really terrifying statistics you hear over and over again once you have a transgender child. Alarming rates of depression, anxiety, homelessness, drug abuse, and suicide. It'd be easy to think that this means there's something wrong with transgender people. And people do it all the time. But that's not the whole picture. Studies in the last decade have shown repeatedly that children and youth who are supported first and foremost by their families, but then by their larger communities, have similar rates of anxiety and depression as their cisgender or not transgender siblings and peers. The rates of homelessness, drug abuse, and suicide drop like that with support. Young people who are loved, supported, and celebrated thrive. Young people who are rejected, harassed, abused, and made to feel as if there's something wrong with them, as if they need to be fixed, struggle. And it's not because there's something wrong with them, it's because they're living in a broken world. As people who work in the church, I think this is really important for us to know and remember. Yes, transgender young people need us to see them, hear them, and affirm them like all youth do. But they also need us to prepare a church that's ready to welcome them, invite them in as they are and not as we expect them to be, and to prepare families to do the same. And that means talking with and teaching people of all ages what it means to be transgender, and that transgender people are beloved of children of God. This starts with the very young and the not so young anymore. 3 years ago, a few months before that Easter I told you about, before Rebecca transitioned, she celebrated her 8th birthday party by going to a painting class with 2 of her girlfriends. Her little brother, Elijah, who was almost 6 at the time, went along with the younger siblings of the 2 other girls, the younger brothers. And so as we're getting ready to go, Rebecca goes to Elijah. She says, there's going to be 3 boys and 3 girls at this party today. Elijah does some math in his head and looks confused and is like, And so she adds, because I'm a girl. He says, no, you're not. And she says, yes, I am. And I am watching this exchange with a pit in my stomach going, what's he going to say? How is she going to respond? But before I can even go down that rabbit hole, he says, so you want me to call you a girl? And she says, yes, because I am a girl. And he says, oh, I just didn't know because you've never told me before. I will. That was it. That is all it took. Kids are incredible. So then Rebecca, feeling pretty good about how this went with her little brother, says to my mother, who comes downstairs, she lived with us at the time, and says, Mima, there's going to be 3 girls and 3 boys there today because I'm a girl. And my mom, who wildly loves her grandchildren, who's so supportive, bless her heart, she burst out laughing. And Rebecca burst into tears. When my mom realized what she'd done, she was crushed. She didn't want to hurt her grandchild. She laughed out of confusion and fear. No one had prepared her for this. And Jesus stepped into her place of grief and confusion and walked with her. She prayed and she read the books I handed her. She watched the documentaries and she listened to her grandchild. When Rebecca eventually transitioned, my mom saw the anxiety lift and Rebecca's joy explode. And my mom's heart burned, and she had to go and tell everyone. She told her 80-something-year-old parents. She told her friends and family. She told the ladies from work. That is no joke. And all those people she told, they told their friends and their family. Jesus steps into our places of grief and walks with us and leaves our hearts burning and ready to go tell the world the good news. It was the burning hearts of a group of young people in New Jersey 2 years ago that wanted to talk about how the church walks with LGBTQ youth. We went to work. After a year of planning, 120 people, ranging in age from 7 to 70, gathered on a snowy day in March for Faith, Hope, and Love, an event aimed at creating safer and more welcoming congregations for LGBTQ young people. The day was filled with learning and resources and conversation and stories, and this is what we heard afterwards. To see so many people who are here to learn, fight for, and love members of the queer community was overflowing with God. Someone else said, I learned that churches have to go out of their way to acknowledge LGBTQ plus people. Even if we are open and affirming, we can't say it enough. There are too many people of faith saying the opposite. And someone else said, I understand so much better what it means to be transgender and what all those letters mean. And my transgender daughter at 10 years old saw a church filled with people wanting to do better by kids like her. She heard the stories of faithful LGBTQ teens, young adults, seminarians, and pastors. She saw herself in the church. And from there, people went out to change the world and the church in big and small ways. Youth went to their councils to talk about becoming reconciling in Christ congregations. It didn't always go the way they wanted it to. But they've started the conversation and they're not giving up. Youth leaders hosted documentary screenings and panel discussions to start learning about what it means to be transgender and what to be in the church with transgender people in their own communities. Educators hung signs in their offices saying that publicly declared they were safe spaces for LGBTQ young people. Pastors connected struggling parents with parents farther along on this journey. Camp staff understood exactly why my kid belongs in a cabin with other girls. And Sunday school teachers realized that something as small as separating kids by gender into boys and girls groups can be really distressing for kids that don't fit into these boxes. So now they separate them by counting off by twos or by who likes cats and who likes dogs. I'm not sure how that goes. Grandparents started conversations with their grandchildren. Youth started conversations with their parents. And one high school-aged young person came out to herself and her community, and she is so excited to share her story at this year's event. Were not our hearts burning? A day or two before we arrived here, one of the media advocacy pieces my family had done started getting shared again on social media. A lot. And with that came a lot of messages of love and support and a whole lot more messages of hate and fear. As the comment threads went on and my inbox filled with ugly messages too ugly for me to give airtime here. Just leaves me speechless. Suddenly there was a shift. My phone was still vibrating nonstop, But it was because of all of you. It was with your friend requests, your tweets, your messages, your emails, and the holy conversations I was having here in person with you. I was overwhelmed not only with your support, but your burning hearts to do better by kids that don't fit in these boxes, and to move the church forward in real and necessary ways, to tell the story. I think of all the seeds of hope gathered this weekend and how you will take them back to your places of ministry and plant them. And my heart burns. Go and tell the story.